Hello, and welcome to Loose Threads, a true crime podcast that goes behind the scenes of some of the most fascinating and frustrating missing persons cases in America, and the unusual and driven people who insert themselves into these mysteries. Why do people insert themselves into criminal cases, and what consequences have they and others suffered as a result? Does it ever really help? As someone who has been there and done that, I may be uniquely qualified to explore these topics. So join me as we investigate the many twists and turns of public advocacy in American justice. In our last episode, we introduced the story of Callie Pearson, an advocate for justice in the case of Deorr Kunz Jr., who went searching for the truth, only to be silenced by a lawsuit. Yet her story didn't end with a settlement. Before that door closed, Callie detailed how she uncovered things that continue to raise questions to this day. In this episode, we'll walk through the possible timeline her experiences help piece together, share some of the inconsistencies discovered, and highlight some new players that stepped out of the shadows when they thought they could help. Much of the information we're about to discuss comes from publicly available interviews, Callie's meticulous documentation before her settlement, and statements made by Vernal Kunz himself, pulled directly from a transcript of a recorded phone conversation by the catfisher we discussed in episode 5 of this podcast. The first question I'd like to explore is this. If we believe baby Deorr disappeared at the campsite, as all 4 adults claimed, where was Vernal while Jessica and Isaac were at the creek? Vernal has claimed that he was down at the creek with Jessica and Isaac when Deorr vanished, but Jessica told private investigator Philip Klein and his team that Vernal never came to the creek. That alone seems suspicious, but it gets worse. Isaac claimed that Vernal and Deorr were walking behind him and Jessica toward the creek, but when he turned around, they were no longer there. Isaac's version of events implies Vernal was alone with Deorr. According to multiple sources, it is alleged that Grandpa Bob was asleep in a chair during this time. Isaac was seen with a fishing pole and a tackle box, preparing to fish, and Jessica was at the creek. That only leaves Vernal unaccounted for. So what could have happened during that small window of time? We still don't know for certain. The conflicting accounts and changing stories haven't helped anybody's credibility, especially Vernal Kunz. And the mystery only deepens. Callie's notes reveal that, at one point, Vernal expressed that he hated camping, and he didn't even want to be at the campsite that day in 2015. He reportedly offered multiple excuses for needing to return home, including claiming that the turbo on his truck was acting up. Vernal also offered other exaggerations and bizarre claims. He said he had reams of paperwork to back up his account. But what kind of documents would he have to prove mundane details like who cooked breakfast or where the dog was? At best, they would be retroactive notes, hardly the objective evidence he claimed they were. In a recorded phone call captured by the catfisher, Vernal gave yet another rambling defensive account of his actions that day. Here's a direct excerpt. You want to know the only time I was alone with my son that whole day? You know, the only time I was alone with my son the entire day was about 30 minutes before Jessica come up to me, before anything even happened, and told me that she and I had to go. We need to go into town because she had started her period, the only time. And I guess you could say I was alone with my son. Yeah, I was 10 feet from the campfire with my pickup truck, and Jessica and her grandpa and Isaac were 10 feet from me. But yeah, it was just he and I. He and I that entire effing day did not get 1 second alone without somebody watching us, though, without somebody within looking distance of us. In my opinion, This is a strange mix of denial and over-explanation, one that seems to reveal just how aware Vernal was of how bad the optics looked. Callie Pearson didn't work alone. Family members of the missing child and others began sharing concerns with her privately, including details they never dared to make public. One source alleged that Grandpa Bob had been seen drunk in multiple bars and told anyone who would listen it was an accident, and Vernal had to finish him off. Bar patrons were reportedly so disturbed they contacted law enforcement. If true, these drunken confessions line up with what many people have long suspected about baby Deorr's fate, but they don't stand alone. If baby Deorr actually died in an accident, what kind of accident might it have been? If you recall our interview in episode 4, private investigator Philip Klein's belief is that Vernal and Jessica accidentally ran over the boy, possibly while high on drugs. According to statements by Vernal and others, the truck Vernal drove to the campsite was allegedly purchased just 5 or 6 days before Deorr disappeared. He bought the truck used from a close friend. Philip Klein's team discovered that the same truck was destroyed within 15 days of Deorr's disappearance. It had been crushed. If it was simply a personal vehicle with no relevance to the case, why destroy it so quickly, especially after it had been used during the trip? Even more troubling is what investigators found before the truck was gone. Luminol testing picked up blood on the left fender wheel well and rear bumper. According to Caroline, a representative from Klein Investigations, fluid evidence was located but ultimately ruled inconclusive because the truck had been washed. Her words? DNA could not be obtained, period. What do you think, Threaders? If there was no accident, why destroy the vehicle? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Discrepancies in the campsite timeline, continually changing stories, questionable behavior, alarming drunken confessions, and potential evidence possibly destroyed. It all seems very damning for the adults in this case, so it is easy to imagine why determined truth seekers like Philip Klein and Callie Pearson were hit with lawsuits. In our next episode, we'll be stepping away from speculation and hearsay. We'll hear from someone who was present in Deorr Jr.'s life before he disappeared, Jessica's Aunt Lynn. She lived above them, saw their dynamic up close, and has been holding back her comments until now. We'll discuss a family dinner that allegedly took place on the Wednesday before Deorr was reported missing. We'll talk about Jessica's behavior and what happened in the days that followed. We'll also explore why some family members believe they already know what happened to baby Deorr and that justice has so far been denied. So don't miss a single episode. Hit the bell icon, give us a like, and we'll see you in the next episode.